Hello everyone, I'm Yumna Ali from Hazara University, Pakistan, and I'm glad to be part of International Relaxation Day 2025. And the conference theme for this year is Harnessing Relaxation to Enhance Well-being. And I will be talking about how well-being can be harnessed towards a spiritual perspective. The title is Sufi Qawwali Music for Stress Management. So basically the idea to present is following a narrative review. So that will be discussed in the method section. So firstly, Sufi Qawwali music. Now Sufi Qawwali music in Oriental cultures is traditionally performed at the shrines and graves of popular saints. And it aims for spiritual repositioning. Now, Qawwali music is performed within the shrines or Sufi lodges, and these are also called dargahs, and people gather over there. So it's a collective perspective. It's not like managing stress on an individual level, but managing stress by involving the people around and socially targeting stress as we all face in this frantic world. So the roots of Qawwali can be traced back to the 8th century Persia, today's Iran and Afghanistan, and during the first major migration from Persia in the 11th century, the musical tradition of Sema migrated to South Asia. Sema means active listening or actively tuning into the Sufi Qawwali music. And it started from South Asia, then it went towards Turkey and Uzbekistan. So the main poet after this tradition belonged from Sufi order, which is known as Chishti, and the Amir Khusro Dehelvi, who is the poet, is credited with fusing the Persian and Indian musical traditions to create Qawwali, as we know today, that is called in India. The word Sema is also used in Central Asia and Turkey to refer to the forms very similar to Qawwali, and in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh is a formal name used for a session of Qawwali, which is Mehfil Sama. So in Mehfil, it means gathering. People come together who are stressed from various backgrounds. It can include problems of poverty or illness or sickness or sadness or trauma or accidents, which we all face on day-to-day basis. So it's a gathering where people come together and they sit down and tune into the specific form and specific pattern of music, which is the Qawwali music, which is infused with poetry that takes a person from the worldly problems towards the divine attention or towards the source. So basically it involves ecstatic movements, rhythmic motions of moving heads and dancing that involves convulsions of the body. It includes rendering of Qawwali poetry, and it includes hand clapping. The ensemble plays harmonium and tolak, which is also known as a tabla, form of drums. The listeners are deemed as devotees who seek liberation from the present day's busy and mundane life, leaving them stuck to feel the world beyond. So the beat of the drums is actually a calling to them that they should divert their attention towards the greater source, or to the greater power or God, or for some people it's their ancestors or saintly spirits who look after them, to connect with them, and for that period of time their worldly stresses to disappear. So the aim is to connect the listener to the divine with this genre. So for example, in the host city of Pakistan, there are a lot of famous shrines who hold regular Sufi Qawwali music, and people from all over the Pakistan and from different places. Also, there are foreigners visiting. They will sit down and tune into the Qawwali music, and it's therapeutic for them. And they report that it's very good for stress management. So, spiritual music indicates towards having spiritual experiences. It leads towards transcendence. It leads to self-expansiveness that are transpersonal constructs also, and people that feel stress-free, and it's attributed towards the beats and the notes played in the music, which is a synthesis in which people feel connected, and it links to the heartbeat of course, how the human heart is beating. Similarly, the synthesis and the sequence of the music is performed in such a way that it synthesizes and syncs with the heartbeat. So the process of Sufi Qawwali music is that it starts from the Qawwali party. So it's a congregation of musicians. There are party members. There are 8 to 9. There's a lead singer. Then the singer has 1 to 2 side singers, and then there are 1 to 2 harmonium players. There are 1 to 2 percussionists, and there are 4 to 5 chorus members. So the chorus members are also responsible for clapping to produce the rhythm. So there is percussion with one person, and then there's a tabla with the dominant hand, and there's a tolak, which is forms of the drums with the other hand. So if there are percussions with 2 persons, then in that case, one plays the tabla, which are the drums, and one plays the tolak, which is form of drums also. And they're chorus members who repeat the key verses and clap in rhythm. So the attention towards the key verses is that it takes the focus of the stress, which is momentary stress and which is transient. It depends on each person's case. So how they're feeling it is diverted towards the rhythmic poetry, and poetry is indicating towards divinity. It may have spiritual verses, it may have religious verses also, so there's a synthesis of it. But Qawwali music, the speciality is that it communicates with people from despite any background. It's devoid of creed, caste, religion, background, social status, because the target is to create a stress-free environment and stress-free listening ritual, because stresses of life are common, and they're basically very common, despite the background, despite the group where the people are listening from. So the song begins, and the Qawwali party would have a tabla and a tolak, and the clapping would start, and the singing of the verses will begin. So it's traditional, it's not improvised. The idea is that the Sufi poetry and the verses that are being recited in chanting should be in its original form that the poet had said it, whether it was in the 11th century or the 7th century or whenever, but there must not be any changes in it, because when these verses were said, they were said in a specific spiritual state, and the meaning should be retained so that it will be effective. So there's subtle tunes, and they follow a main specific melody. They are elapsed by the lead side singer, which is also said that the person is an optional sargam. And then slowly and gradually, the tempo is built with passion, with vocal acrobatics. And it alternates with the sargam and the Qawwali students. And then the song ends suddenly, which gives a gap and a lapse and a vacuum towards the listeners that they would want more, because it's so effective if they're actively listening or if they're actively indulged in the moment of sama. So the components of Sufi Qawwali music is basically the spiritual foundation, and it can be from any background, despite being from anywhere of the world. It is communicative to people of all regions, which is common that there are different concerts now going on in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and so on and so forth in Western regions also. So since it is based in Eastern traditions, and people tune into for their stress management and relaxation, so the spiritual foundations are embedded in Sufi poetry that is now translated in many languages, such as Rumi and Amir Khusro and Bulisha, and they indicate towards divine love, which is a central theme. And the aim is of devotion. It is meant to elevate the soul. It is meant to liberate the soul, which is stressed in this frantic world. And stresses are common for mostly all the people in the world, whether it's financial, it's emotional, psychological, it's if it's trauma, because of any reason, especially for the war survivors nowadays. So there are musical elements that harnesses a person in that moment of time. It is known as rag, which is a melodic structure. Then there is tal, which is a rhythmic cycle. And then there are call and response style of the main vocalist and the chorus. So there's a communication between many singers, and it goes in group and synthesis. Moreover, there are vocal components. The lead qawwal is the main singer, he's the spiritual guide, and he is the main mentor and main coach. And then the hamnavas are the chorus people who build the echo and they build the rhythm, and it has to synchronize with the heartbeats and the breathing rate. So it could be improvised accordingly. So it's on the spot vocal creativity. And the instruments that are used are harmonium, tabla and dholak, and clapping, which is rhythmic. So it's very important since our heart, every human's heart beats. And similarly, Sufi Qawwali music targets the beating, it targets the breathing rates, and it targets the rhythm of the human body, just like we have a circadian rhythm, which can get disrupted, for example, when the body clock is disrupted and when there's a lot of stress and so on. So the basic of Sufi Qawwali music is all about the beats and the rhythm. Then we have the structure of a Qawwali, for example, whether it's praise of God, whether it's a praise of a prophet, or it can be any prophet, and whether it's a praise of our ancestral spirits or whether it's praise of the saints, but it has to express love and peace and harmony in all aspects. It's just not that we're targeting just one specific culture over here. The best thing about Sufi Qawwali music is that since it focuses on the rhythmic beats and just how every human being is breathing and is having systematic patterns of heart rate, on that basis, this is how it's built on that basis. Now, it also targets audience engagement in which they have to spiritually listen and intune themselves, and they're free to feel trance or ecstasy. And then this gathering is intimate and it is respectable, and it has a decorum and it follows specific rules. And the participation can include hand claps, head movements, and emotional tears. Now, it's so difficult to synthesize all this in a narrative review in a qualitative analysis, but when it is witnessed in the audience, one can understand that how much stress relief is felt when that liberation just comes up. So when the body and mind becomes stress-free, the spirit feels liberated. It is tough to quantitatively measure the state of devotees, as I just said. Stress management and spiritual healing are entwined while the participants engage in active listening. Spiritual music active listening is seen as a process of self-awareness which can help individuals to find novel paths to stress management, just as in mindfulness where there is active noticing. And active noticing has been this concept has been created by Ellen Langer, and Ellen Langer from the Harvard University. She's the head of Department of Psychology there, and I had the opportunity to interview Ellen Langer, and she talked to me about active listening and how every person is novel and how every situation is novel and how important it is to have the qualities of novelty seeking and novelty producing in individuals. So similarly, active listening in Sema or a Qawwali music gathering is very important because we have to intune towards the rhythm as well as to pay attention to the lyrics. And beyond the lyrics and the wordings, it's about the rhythm and the systematic beats where the human being or the listener over there, of course, is specifically connected to. So the combination of effective poetry, music, and Qawwali conducted in the presence of a mindful coach, who's a lead singer, can impart healing and relaxation in the listeners. So the state of the coach or state of the main lead and singer is very important in Qawwali music. So When I was doing this speech and this study preparation, I came across different papers, but there are lack of empirical studies, of course. I used the Sandra scale, which is scale for the assessment of narrative review articles, and as per the Sandra score assessment, each article was given a unique score. So there are integers that range from 0 to 2, where 1 acts as a mediatory score. And as per the Sandra tool, the articles are rated on review importance, aims, literature description, and investigation. So on average, each article scores 9.5, hence the Sandra score for this was 503. It's very important to understand that the ideal Sandra score, of course, is there for the articles, but there are lack and scarcity of articles where there is quantitative detail and description about the studies of Sufi Qawwali music. If there are any quasi-experimental studies, or are there any randomized controlled trials on how stress management is affected after the intervention of Sufi Qawwali music. When I searched in Prospero, there are similar studies as per systematic reviews or meta-analysis, uh, which were not really found. So Sufi Qawwali music in relation to stress management was the way that I searched through the databases of Google Scholar, PsycInfo, and Medline via Ovid. Sandra Prism tool was used, and I used the mesh terms, the Boolean terms of Sufi Qawwali music and stress management skills from the year 2010 up to 2025. So it makes about 15 years, and still it was not a complete paper, I would say, although there were literature review analysis and there were correlation cross-sectional studies, but how Sufi Qawwali music can actually target depression and anxiety, how it can help people from phases of different traumas, and how it can affect overall well-being is very important. So this year, with Dr. Stuart Woolsey from NHS, who is a PhD from Lancaster University, and he's a main figure in transpersonal psychology from the UK. Under him, I'm investigating the impact of Sufi Qawwali music in bereaved adults, and for now, the paper is accepted in work in progress with the Transpersonal Psychology Section Conference, which will be due in September. So this is the novel initiative where impact of Sufi Qawwali music can be assessed in bereaved adults. And interestingly, why this work in progress is very interesting, and we're hoping for a complete study in Pakistan soon, that the co-authors of the paper are the lead singers of Ilahi Sufi Qawwali music group. So with them, I have over 10 years of experience in qualitative research, and all the foreigners from multi-ethnic groups and from different backgrounds would just integrate to promote Sufi Qawwali music in almost all nationalities in the world. So it has a potential to empirically impact the states of people, but specifically for stress management skills, this topic is in dearth and is not being empirically studied. So looking forward to that one from the British Psychological Society. So Sufi Qawwali music further promotes social cohesion, where people from different phases of stress come together and from different backgrounds and participate in the devotional listening. Emotional and psychological help is offered, especially at the Sufi shrines where Qawwali is performed and people can take relief from daily stressors. Hence, the community of dargahs or Sufi lodges is also important, where stressed and psychologically troubled people can live without a cost and can sit and reflect related to their problems. So yes, in Pakistan, and hopefully there would be places and in different countries in Asia where there are Sufi lodges where people can sit, especially if it's shrine of a saint, and over there can pray, can indulge in connection, can listen to Sufi Qawwali music over there, and feel relieved and stress-free. And sometimes it's so effective that people would like to come there every Thursdays or every weekends from different cities. So the the amount of stress which is there in this frantic world right now, and since there's a lot of war going on, and different communities are marginalized, and apart from that, the microaggressions and the feelings that people they go through when there's a lot of stress going on overall in the world, it's very important that at that time to harness those stress releasing elements and tune into something very effective. So Sufi Qawwali music is not for aesthetic purposes. It's not for commercialization. It was never meant to be, but for targeted aims such as relief from tension and connection with the greater source is very important. And when we observe the Sufi Qawwali ensembles, since I've been working with the Fanafi Allah International Group and Ilahi Sufi Qawwali Group, and my work of literary support to Sama School of Music, uh, it's just very important to observe the audience when they are in the Sufi Qawwali music intervention, and if they are taking it and listening to it, it is very effective. It seems so, but there are studies that report it in literature, but we need more empirical studies to validate the results. So in spiritual traditions, the music assembly is a sacred place, and there must not be commercialized music. Although in the UK and the US, some commercialization has taken place because of the popularity of the rhythmic beats of the music, so they would want it to related to the recent culture. So Qawwali is probably predestined more than any other Sufi musical form to touch the listener, whether it's mystic or for common believer, it arouses enthusiasm, it alters the state of the consciousness, it brings tears to the eyes, opens the heart, and empties it. So the aim is the dissolution of the ego. So when a person feels stress, it's about the ego is in pain, or whenever there is a wish that is not being fulfilled and it is because of the carnal desires that are just not being satisfied. So just because the ego continues to disturb the person and there is a conflict going on within the person psychologically, and when we take into account the transpersonal aspects of psychology, where a person feels self-restricted and self-contracted and does not feel that he can do something beyond it and feels hopeless because the ego states it. And the Qawwali music with the rhythmic aspects tends to put such an impact to the active listener that it reduces the feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression. So Qawwali is a community music practice directly related to the deep local roots that reaches out across boundaries of language, caste, class, and creed. For evoking happiness, for stress reduction, Sufi Qawwali music can play an eminent role. Especially for women, Qawwali music is deemed as a ritual of listening to release worries. And especially in conservative societies where women cannot go out freely, and if there are economic restrictions, they can, within their households or within their space, can tune into the Qawwali music, and yes, it can make an impact. Music in Sufism promotes healing, well-being, and wellness, and it is also recorded that it can treat some of the physical illnesses if it's medicine resistant, and it can also treat depression that is drug resistant. So still there are studies in dearth, and there is still room for more investigation. So just as meditation is now widely discussed in medical settings for stress relief, the allopathic medical world also explores alternative forms for diverse populations. Sufi embedded music can impact patient stress and anxiety levels significantly. The stressful modern life requires Sufi Qawwali music interventions. So Sufi Qawwali music and chanting is important as it releases stress. Not only does external pressures cause stress, but being stuck in the left brain exacerbates it. While being fully engaged in the world, we want a spiritual life to cope with the stress, so it goes hand in hand. And if this practice, if not if there's no chance to tune into in person or visit the ensemble performance in person, there's always chance to listen to it and try to connect to it. Unhealthy stress is a precipitator of disease, yet the combination of sounds can help to reduce stress and it can enhance overall well-being. So Sufi Qawwali music should be investigated, and it is being investigated in a work in progress study with the British Psychological Society in collaboration with the Sufi Qawwali singers, and we are working on it. And I'm thankful for the platform of International Relaxation Day and to the organizers who are bringing into a diverse set of people with alternative therapies and novel ideas for managing stress and relaxation even more effectively. Thank you.